In the early 1990s, Robin Erbisfield and Didier Raboutou were sitting next to each other backstage at a climbing competition in Paris, France. Robin asked to borrow his bottle of shoe puff, and Didier let her keep it. 3 years later, the two of them were married, and they would go on to have 2 children. With both parents being world champions, it's really no exaggeration to say that Brooke Raboutou was born to be a climber. She first took up the sport when she was 2 as part of her mom's ABC program. 8 years later, she was climbing 514. 8 years after that, she had punched her ticket to the inaugural Olympic Games. Because of her parents and how long she's been in the sport, you would expect Brooke to be a really strong climber with good fundamentals, but she's so much more than that. She has a way of reading and understanding routes that allows her to not only compensate for often being the shortest climber on the field, but to actually turn it into an advantage. I'm tempted to call these beta breaks, but that almost seems disingenuous. What she's doing feels a lot more subtle than that, and we're going to be looking at exactly how she's taken her climbing roots and turned them into something completely unique. This is my breakdown of one of the most exciting prospects in the climbing world. This is the creativity of Brooke Raboutou. Hey everyone, welcome to Climbing Styles, where we break down some of the best climbers in the world to see what makes them so special. Today we're going to be looking at Brooke Raboutou, whose creativity on the bouldering wall make her a must-watch on the IFSC circuit. Now, if you follow climbing news, you'll know that it's not uncommon for child phenoms to do incredibly difficult routes at young ages. It seems like every couple of years, there's a new teenager sending a 9A or winning the Youth World Championship looking to be the next big thing. A lot of the time this doesn't end up happening, but Brooke was the exception to the rule. She took her childhood success, having sent V10 at only 9 years old, and ran with it to where she's one of the most exciting up-and-comers in the climbing world. Like I said in the intro, Brooke is obviously incredibly gifted given who her parents are, but it didn't take long for her to outstrip Robin and Didier, and from there she had to develop her own unique approach to climbing. One of the defining features of Brooke's style is her height. At 158 centimeters, she's usually one of the shortest climbers in the field. She was the second shortest Olympian, and her mom Robin has spoken about how she had to learn from a young age to make do without relying on height. This is something that I think Brooke really stands out for. Sometimes, compensating for her height comes down to raw power, like on this youth boulder. On the first try, Brooke isn't tall enough to reach out and establish on the leftmost volume. After a couple of mistakes, she's able to press in hard with her left hand and then drop in, holding herself in place with body tension until she can get both hands established. Other times, she uses her size to her advantage. On this boulder in Salt Lake City, athletes had to drop into this tough, compressed position in order to move to the zone. Look at how much more comfortable Brooke looks than Jessie Piltz, and how much more easily she's able to fit the box and get the move done. Sometimes, though, she has to get creative. Women's 1 at Salt Lake City ended with this big dyno to the finish. Joanna Farber was tall enough to 3-point it, keeping her left foot low and her right hand on the crimp when she goes up to the top. Brooke does not have that luxury, so instead she chose to improvise. After deciding that she didn't like the small chip for her left foot, Brooke just uses the bolt hole as a foothold. You can actually see her wiggle her shoe in to get purchase. This moves her foot higher and a little closer to her body, giving her more to push off of, and she sticks the move to get the flash. Watching her climb, this creativity is what really sticks out for me for Brooke Raboutou. It's something that I've really seen her grown into, especially as she's gotten more comfortable on the climbing scene.
I feel like I've had kind of the strength for a while to do better than I have done, but not really the mental game or the confidence, and I've really been working on that and be confident on the wall with every decision and not climb, not to fall, but rather climb to top.
I really think this point of climbing to top, rather than just trying to avoid falling, is something that you can see Brooke develop over time. Look at her here on the second problem of the Moscow Junior Championships. She's climbing well, and you can see all her power, and then she just gets into an uncomfortable position and kind of pops off. She gets a little higher on the next attempt, but even on this jump for the top, she just looks uncomfortable. Now, obviously, she was like 17 in these clips, so the nerves are understandable, but she just doesn't look convinced that she can climb the route. This is a massive contrast to how she looks now. For example, look at Women's 1 in Salt Lake City. She starts with the wrong foot up and considers swapping them, but then she just makes it work with some really good flexibility. Now, this isn't revolutionary climbing or some massive beta break, but to me, Brooke looks a lot more comfortable than she did in the juniors. She has the attitude of someone who believes that they're good enough to top the boulder, and even when she misreads something or gets in a difficult position, she experiments and tries out different moves instead of just jumping off the wall. For another example, look at her composure in the Innsbruck 2021 lead finals. After sticking this big move, and you have to excuse the IFSC camera work here, Brooke goes inverted to get the clip and then moves the heel hook she had in place to a different, slightly wider heel hook. Now, heel hooks are something that Brooke does a lot, and she's really good at them. In general, she's just super aware of her feet at all times, and she's insanely good at making small adjustments to help her hold certain positions. To see what I mean, look at her climb about 3 moves farther up the Innsbruck wall. First, she sneaks an Wonderlick knee bar here to help her get the clip done. Then just look at this footwork. She drops the left foot down to make room to go up to the yellow hold, moves the left into a drop knee as she reaches out with the left hand, and then swaps the left foot for a right heel hook while dropping into a split with the left. I want to remind you all that this is her onsite attempt at the international level after having climbed 30 moves of 8A. This is just a masterclass in understanding where her body is and how to move efficiently. The Olympics, to me, had some of the best examples of Brooke showing this efficiency and creativity as she boulders. Unfortunately, I can't play those clips here, but I have a full breakdown on my Patreon if you want to see. Thankfully, Brooke went to the Moscow Championships right after, where she once again demonstrated her ability to see the boulders differently from everyone else. On her first attempt on Women's 1, she misses this big throw to the finish. On her next try, look at how she latches this toe hook to hold herself in place before double dynoing to the top. Now, she makes this look easy because she's Brooke Raboutou, but no other climber saw this, and that toe is pretty hidden behind the volume. This is brilliant climbing. On Women's 2, she lines up the finish before dropping down to rest. After composing herself, she puts the right foot back and then just throws herself into the finish hold. This is what I mean about her getting more comfortable in comps. She does these wacky moves with so much conviction and confidence that they just work for her, even if it's absolutely not what the route setters intended. Finally, on Women's 4, she came so close to pulling off a beta break figure 4. Now, this doesn't end up working, but it shows everything that I talked about. Using creative footwork to compensate for her height, finding cool beta breaks, and having the comfort and confidence in herself to try unconventional stuff in the name of getting a top. All in all, I really think Brooke's climbing career up to this point has been a feel-good story. She got so much attention from such a young age, and for a couple of years, it looked like she was struggling to find her footing on the international scene. To see her now, still so young, competing well, and being comfortable, and climbing with so much ingenuity on these routes, going up against the very best in the world, is really great and just really fun to watch, and that is the creativity of Brooke Raboutou.